Something I wanted to talk about this morning. I'm not quite sure how many of you have had much to do with it in the past, but our company works with central tyre inflation systems for a range of industries. So I want to just describe a little bit about what it is, because before we can go into the good and bad parts, there are no bad parts. Before we can go into the various aspects of what the equipment does for you, we have to describe a little bit about how it works. So what we're doing is we're matching tyre pressures for your vehicle for the terrain that you're travelling on. And this is quite important for a whole bunch of reasons. You're going to be, in this context, you're going to be moving hides. It's a seasonal thing to a certain extent, and you're going to be doing some of your operations when it's in the winter. You're going to be doing them when it's dark. You're going to be going across fields often when they're at their soggiest. And that can be a problem, because once you're on the highway, if you are travelling any distance, you're going to be having your tyre pressures nice and high so that you can carry your loads. But once you enter the paddock, that's exactly the wrong thing. Once you enter a field or go down a track, then those hard tyres are going to give you some real grief. So if you're doing a lot of track work, it's going to be shaking you up, and it's going to be shaking your vehicle up, and the transmission and everything to do with your vehicle and its longevity is going to be affected. The thing is that if you can lower your tyre pressures, you can enter a field and your wheels aren't going to be churning the mud. And there's another aspect of this as well. If you're going into private property and they're using those paddocks for growing crops, they don't like it if the vehicles are entering those fields and compressing the soils. If they can drop their tyre pressures so when they enter the field that they're not compressing the soil and it's not affecting the yield of the crops. So the same thing applies here in some way, that if you're entering properties and if you can match those pressures a little bit and lower them, you're not going to be affecting their fields as much that you're coming and going. So as a system, there's different ways it can be applied. A lot of the installations only affect the rear wheels on the vehicle, the drive wheels, so that's where you get the most traction when you're taking off. More and more we're seeing people take large loads, take trailers, and the same thing can apply. You're not worried about traction with the trailer, but you are still worried about vibration and the impact on the land. What it looks like in your vehicle, and this is an important part, because if you've got this technology in your truck, you need to know how to use it. It's pretty straightforward, pretty intuitive, and it doesn't take up too much space. There's a little control that goes on your dashboard. We have a couple of different types of control. Mostly it's pre-configured for what is ideal for your vehicle. They're usually labelled 1, 2 and 3 for preference, highway and off-road, and if you need a bit more traction, you can take those pressures right down. So it's just a matter of just punching the button to P1, P2, P3, and you're put into the right target for that condition. The little display shows what the target pressures are, and it shows what the live readings are right now, so you get a little bit of a feel for what's going on. Now, there are other really useful parts to this. It's not just matching traction and this sort of thing. If you're transporting some equipment, and this happens across a lot of industry, if you're transporting through cities, across town, you might pick up a nail or a bolt in your truck, and that can disable you. It can trigger something which a bit further down the road becomes a blowout, and that can leave you stranded for a long period of time in a dangerous situation if you've got to try and change a wheel. Now, with this, if you do get something penetrate the tyre and it starts to go down, the system detects it, it tops it up and maintains it for you. It gives you a warning that it's topped up more than what you would normally have, and then the operator says, all right, there's something going on here, but you don't have to do anything about it at that moment in time. You can complete your trip, you can get to your destination, and on your own terms and safe terms, you can restore the vehicle. That's an alternative control system. It's got extra lines on the display and supports the trailers. And of course, if you do have a trailer on your vehicle, sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not, and you need to be able to take that away and put it back on again fairly quickly. So this is what it looks like on the wheels. Now, there are different configurations of how it's applied. We use these hoses. We're the only company that are using these hard reinforced hoses, and the devices on the wheel hubs are called rotators, and that's how we deliver air into the wheels, and how we relieve the air from it when we have to drop the pressures. It feeds the inside tyres and the outside tyres. There's all sorts of things going on there. It allows us to balance the tyres from the inside to the outside so that they're sharing the road equally on the edges of roads. It's all very heavily reinforced, and it gets used a lot in the logging industry, a lot of other enterprises. We're seeing a lot of this equipment now in the power industry, because of course if you're working on power lines, you've got to be able to get in and out of paddocks to service the power lines, and they've discovered the advantages of this, and so many trucks now are running it that way. So there's a few dot points here. There's the money side of things, as to why you would do it. Where is the return on the investment? That's an important part. Balancing the pressures correctly is going to increase the life of your tyres. They're going to last a lot longer if you're not overinflated, if you can match the pressure of your tyres for the load. As I mentioned, it restricts some of the vibration that goes through the vehicle, and it's going to make the vehicle last a bit longer because things aren't breaking and shaking and falling off, particularly on longer hauls too. There's a lot of road trains now picking up this technology where they have to do long distances, and that's very, very tough on vehicles, and they've found a big advantage in going this way. On the performance side, we've got the traction as mentioned, and your ability to go in and out of places if you drop those pressures is huge. You're not sinking, you're spreading the load across a larger area, and you're not tearing up paddocks. If you're carrying a full load, you'd have high pressures. If you've gotten rid of that load and you're still going along with those high pressures, your tyres are overinflated effectively, and your stopping distances are affected, your manoeuvrability in wet weather is affected. So one tyre pressure really does not suit all conditions, not by a long shot, but it's done that way out of convenience for the most part, but it's really not the way to go if you're carrying a lot of loads over a lot of different terrains. And of course, if it's not shaking up you, the driver, then that's going to be better for your health as well. Those of you who have got it are enjoying the use of it, and those who haven't will give it some further consideration. It's a very interesting point about the logging industry is we discovered that while overpressure in tyres on tracks creates corrugations and has a big effect on those tracks, dropping the pressures takes those corrugations back out again. So in a lot of industries where they're going to try and maintain track conditions and keep them open longer during the damp seasons, being able to drop the pressure not only helps the truck, it helps the infrastructure around it. A lot of fire trucks are having the same advantages, that they're moving through sand, they're carrying heavy loads of water, and don't want to get stuck under adverse conditions either. So it's been a big deal in that industry. Our company is based in Morwell in Gippsland. We've got agents around the country, and if you have any further questions about that, you can certainly speak to us here today, or you can give us a call in our office. We can help you out.
Thanks, Ian.